An apparent average day is marred by a strange explosion that murders an entire class of high school students. One of the students awakens to discover that she's been reincarnated as a frail, nameless spider-type monster in a different realm. She understands this world follows RPG logic after quickly escaping from her cannibalistic mother and brothers, but she ends up wasting all of her skill points on a talent that is useless. She spends some time wandering the labyrinth and finds herself getting more and more hungry. Eventually, she resorts to eating one of her siblings' corpses, which allows her to acquire a mystery skill. Later, she kills a toxic frog by trapping it in a web she made. Nameless decides to make it through this new environment despite the fact that both meals were terrible. The fourth prince of the Annelid Kingdom, Shun, noblewoman Kadia, Shun's pet earth dragon Faye, crown prince of the Renzant Empire, Hugo, Sanctus Yuri, and the class teacher turned elf, Miss Oka, are among her classmates who also reincarnated. And they are all enrolled in magic school with Shun's younger sister, Sue. Shun and Faye have the same conviction that Faye's reincarnation as a dragon was karma for Wakaba's bullying in their previous life. When Faye inquires about Wakaba, who has been looking for reincarnations around the world, Miss Oka replies that Wakaba has not yet been discovered, leaving Faye to worry about her well-being. As she levels up, Nameless learns that she has a special skill that heals her as she pursues more creatures. She continues to construct a nest and then discovers a human trapped in her web. As the person attempts to flee, a dragon egg is dropped. Nameless intends to consume it, but additional people interrupt her and set fire to her nest in an effort to recover the egg, causing her to flee. Nameless constructs a new nest and starts ferociously hunting creatures to gain strength after becoming depressed over how frail she is. But not long after, another attack occurs on her way to her new nest, this time by a huge snake. Nameless defeats the snake after a grueling battle, reaching her level cap and evolving. Shun's class at the academy is practicing magic. Hugo, however, stirs up trouble in an effort to be noticed. A surprise attack by an earth dragon on the class results in the teacher's death. Hugo makes an arrogant attempt to defeat it alone, but is quickly knocked out. Shun battles it along with the other reincarnations and kills it by imitating his older brother, the hero Julius. The dragon was likely Shun's parent, which horrifies Shun to learn Faye was given the title of Kin Eater, and enrages Hugo to see Shun being hailed as a hero. She's back with Nameless and is now at the lower level of the dungeon, where she's surrounded by monsters who are far more powerful than she is. She then meets Araba, a powerful earth dragon, who promptly dispatches them. Nameless tries to elude Araba, but when she does, she's left at the dragon's mercy. To Nameless's advantage, Araba decides she's not worthy of its attention, and departs. She gets caught in the lowest stratum and starts exploring, but she has to continuously conceal because everything down here is much tougher than her. When she finally runs out of food, she turns to the only animal weaker than herself. Grubs that are so deadly that eating them nearly kills her. She eventually begins to level up once more and kills a number of lesser enemies. Her killing of a monkey monster, which causes its entire family to attack her in retaliation, is a grave error that she makes. She finds herself entrapped and is compelled to battle the Horde. Nameless emerges triumphant after a proactive struggle that she was only able to survive because of the skill that heals her as she levels up. Once the monkeys are beaten, Nameless discovers what appears to be the route back up to the upper stratum, but instead finds herself in the intermediate stratum, a lava level, because every RPG has to have one, right? Due to the fact that all of the new monsters can burn Nameless's webs, she's at a disadvantage when facing them. In order to use the more deadly venom, she matures into a small poison Taratect after locating a safe environment. She also buys the talent Pride with skill points, which allows her to level up more quickly, but also unlocks black magic and unholy magic that she's unsure about. Shun is impressed with Faye's development at the academy because she's gone through multiple evolutions and because they've both gained popularity as a result of the defeat of the Earth Dragon. Shun is ordered to inform Faye if he ever encounters someone with the taboo skill, since they are the most heinous of sinners and ought to be put to death. Faye is worried about Yuri because she's growing more and more fanatical in her religious views. Shun is taken aback by the fact that the Word of God Church is Julius's patron, because Julius is a hero. Nameless is frustrated because she continuously discovers magical powers, but can't use them. When she gets back to the lava lake, she runs into some enormous catfish monsters and learns she can kill them by fooling them into ingesting her poisonous balls. She also shows interest in Ruler of Pride, a talent she has not yet unlocked. Julius and his group head toward the nearby lava lake. They're pursuing a spider creature, Julius confesses. When Nameless discovers that one of her magic abilities enables her to see a few seconds into the future, she successfully takes down a giant eel. She then uses the eel's corpse as a temporary shelter so that she can transform into a Zoa L. a spider with enhanced combat and stealth, oblivious to the fact that humans view Zoa Ellis as portents of bad luck. She's pleased to discover that after evolving, her front legs are now razor sharp, and her body has produced armor plates. She also buys the Perseverance skill, which boosts her taboo skill while increasing her chance of surviving with low health. She also has the ability to employ detection to more accurately perceive her surroundings. Additionally, dual perception grants her two separate thoughts, so she can multitask more effectively and actually converse with herself. Three greater Pterodactyls and the Nightmare's Vistage, an even more powerful Pterodactyl, attack Julius and his team. After killing the Pterodactyls, Julius and his squad successfully slay the Vistage, but as they are leaving, Julius can't help but sense that the Vistage were genuinely scared of something else that they were unable to see. In other places, it's mentioned that a demon lord was keeping an eye on the Vistage that had betrayed her and needed to be punished. Julius's triumph increases Shun's popularity, which makes Hugo even more envious. During their conversation with their classmates, with Miss Oka, Shun, Faye, and Kadia learn that aside from the 6 students at the academy, 11 of their peers have been captured by elves. 2 more have been recently discovered, 4 have been determined to be dead, and 3 are still missing. Hugo attacks Shun during a trip to the mountains and announces his intention to kill all the pupils and attribute it to a monster assault. Hugo is ultimately defeated by Miss Oka, who then uses an unidentified power to take away his skills. Nameless, meanwhile, is happy with her development but expresses dismay that her maxed out appraisal skill has not evolved. Just afterwards, she receives a notification that Administrator D has created a wisdom skill specialty for her in response to her complaint. Nameless is horrified by this, though, as it suggests that a being who resembles a god is keeping an eye on her every move. I don't blame her. When a girl who claims to be one of the missing reincarnations approaches Hugo back at the academy and offers her help, Hugo swears revenge on Shun and Miss Oka. Hugo's attempt to kill Shun is hushed up because they're both princes to prevent a war between their 2 kingdoms. Shun recalls the times when they were all close friends in Japan, and Hugo was an egocentric but non-threatening person. He also recalls Faye harassing Hiro, the lone student in the class. They question Oka about Hiro and challenge her about her refusal to talk about the deceased or missing reincarnations. When Nameless discovers that her second mind has been studying magical theory, she's able to start practicing magic. She determines that her third mind will only be focused on learning magic, while she and her second mind concentrate on remaining alive and leveling up as her dual perception levels up once again, giving her 3 minds instead of 2. Takes the phrase "just me, myself, and I" to a whole new level. An injured fire dragon attacks her, nevertheless, faster and stronger than she is. In an effort to poison the dragon, she creates a magic poison bomb, but it is destroyed by a fireball before she can launch it into its mouth. However, the quick communication between her 3 minds unlocks the dragon's 4th mind. The dragon shoots a massive fireball at her because it is trapped and unable to avoid her. Miss Oka tells Shun that Hiro has passed away. Julius comes to the academy to inform Shun and Sue that the demons are getting ready for battle, and that they will be fighting on the front lines. The Nameless that the dragon killed was an illusion. Then, with the assistance from all 4 of her brains, she was able to cast Abyss Magic and end the dragon. She's then challenged by a masked man with administrative rights who claims to have sensed the dragon's demise. They can't converse because of a language barrier, but then out of nowhere, a smartphone arrives. After speaking with the enigmatic man, who abruptly hangs up, the caller addresses Nameless and introduces herself as D. Nameless, realizing she's been spying on her, asks D what she wants, to which she responds, "Just entertainment," cutting the phone off before Nameless could press further. The Demon Lord meets with her generals in the Demon Realm and declares war on humanity. Shun unexpectedly unlocks the hero title back at the academy, which can only imply one thing: Julius has been murdered. Nameless discovers a way back to the upper stratum. The royal family meets with Shun in the present to discuss his new position, and it's decided that he must leave the academy right away to assume the role of the hero. In another location, at the remnants of the conflict between humans and demons, Julius's former magic teacher, Renaud, is upset over the deaths and ends up telling a story about how 15 years ago he had a group of soldiers entered a labyrinth to look into a monster epidemic. Following a struggle that only Renaud and a fellow mage, Briarmus, survived, they determined that the reason for the problem was a pterodactyl frightening away all the other monsters. Renaud believes that it might be related to Zoella after learning that a queen pterodactyl had showed up on a battlefield. It is revealed that Nameless, who used the accumulated XP to evolve once more, was the pterodactyl in the distant past. Her taboo skill also reaches its maximum level as a result of this, and she collapses. Shun is hesitant about taking up Julius's role as the hero. but Faye persuades him to make a covenant with her that will allow him to call upon her in an emergency. But as the process is going on, Faye changes and turns back into an egg. Hyrance, the sole survivor of Julius's group, tells Shun they were all slaughtered by a strange girl in white, and he was the only one to escape thanks to Julius giving him his own revival item. Shun accepts Hyrance as a new teammate and doesn't hold him accountable. Due to Taboo reaching level 10 in the past, Nameless begins to get visions of the end of the world, but finds it difficult to make sense of them. Nameless resolves to face Araba after realizing she must get stronger in order to save the planet. She then starts assiduously leveling up by eliminating any enemies that might stand in her way. She finally completes her preparations as Araba approaches to confront her. Araba and Nameless are evenly matched, but she manages to tip the balance in her favor by entangling the Earth Dragon in a web she had previously created. Araba, however, later spends all of its skill points that it had saved up to obtain skills that Nameless is vulnerable to. As she becomes more and more surrounded, Nameless briefly considers giving up, but finally decides to continue fighting. But just as Araba is about to kill her, the Earth Dragon abruptly falls. Then it is revealed that Nameless knew she could not defeat Araba directly, so she employed a technique that she had learned in advance to gradually sap Araba's strength until it gave way to exhaustion. After winning, Nameless is about to execute the final blow when Araba gives up and expresses satisfaction with their struggle. She becomes enraged by this, kills the dragon, but is left feeling empty. By using a tracking spell she cast on the humans before, Nameless is able to exit the labyrinth in the past. Nameless finally leaves the labyrinth after taking out some humans manning the exit. When she unexpectedly receives a telepathic message from her mother telling her to go back to the labyrinth, which she ignores, she makes it her new aim to evolve into Arachne, a half-human, half-spider monster. Shun and his family encounter the elf leader, Potamus, in the present, who informs them that talks with the demons have ceased ever since the ascension of the current demon lord, and cautions Shun not to put his faith in the church. When they are taken hostage by Hugo, Kadia and Sue at the academy worry about Shun. Due to Nameless's disobedience in the past, her mother sends an army of spider monsters to bring her back. However, she easily dispatches the majority of them before teleporting the survivors to the middle stratum, where they are heated to death. Then, as her mother tries to exert control over her once more, she sends parallel minds through their psychic link to attack her mother's psyche. It's revealed that Hugo is collaborating with Shun's older half-brother Silas in the present. When Nameless sees a carriage being attacked by bandits, she discovers one of the inmates, a vampire baby named Sophia, is a fellow reincarnation after dispatching the attackers though. Nameless leaves, envious of the child. Sue suddenly kills the monarch, her father in the present, and frames Shun. Then Silas and Hugo take him into custody, and inform him that they conspired to carry out this coup d'etat because the king was planning to appoint Shun as his successor to keep him off the battlefield. However, with assistance from Miss Oka and Hyrance, his maid Anna, and brother Leston, Shun is able to flee. However, as they are recovering, a group led by Kadia, who's been indoctrinated, and Hugo's reincarnated ally, Sophia, assault them. Even though they manage to rescue Kadia, Sophia and her attackers overwhelm them. However, when Faye, who has grown into a sizable light dragon, shows up, they're able to flee on her back. Sophia then telepathically notifies the demon lord that her task was successful. They discover that they've been imprisoned when her mother unexpectedly finds her way out of the labyrinth to chase Nameless herself. This is happening as Nameless's parallel minds are eating away at her mother's mind. When Nameless teleports back to her labyrinthic lair and realizes she is utterly outmatched, more Pterodactyls ambush her. She tries to run away but is stopped by a puppet Pterodactyl, a tiny spider monster that controls a mannequin that is the size of a human. She's forced into a corner, and after killing one and leveling up, which completely heals her, she manages to turn the tide. She then teleports both herself and the remaining enemies to the lava floor, where they perish from the heat. After reaching her level cap, Nameless then undergoes another evolution. Shun and the others decide to proceed to the elf village to confront Hugo's impending attack after learning about it from Miss Oka in the present. Leston, however, decides to remain behind to handle the kingdom's current predicament. However, they will pass through the same labyrinth that formerly housed Nameless on this quest. Nameless learns that after her most recent evolution, she now possesses the skill Immortality. She then receives a call from D, who congratulates her on being the first of her species to encounter her, and shares the reason why she and her fellow classmates were reborn before leaving. Dee did it as a gesture of contrition, because the explosion that killed everyone was really an attempt on her life by a former hero, and Demon King, who also revealed that she's a classmate. Shun's party now has arrived at the labyrinth, where they hire Boskoth as a guide to help them through it, and Faye shows she can now take on a human shape. The guide slips them in through an underwater entrance despite some difficulty with the water dragon because Hugo's Imperial army is defending the entry. She challenges the puppet Pteratect one more time and kills it by filling the cave with water before leaving. The original Pteratect Ariel, the Demon Lord, ambushes her, blowing her corpse to pieces. Ariel is getting ready to invade the elf village in the Demon Realm. Shun's group sets up camp while navigating the labyrinth. Shun, unable to sleep, is informed by Bosgoth about his encounter with Nameless, now referred to as the Nightmare of the Labyrinth, when he was younger. At a fork in the road, with time running out, the company decides to take a quick but perilous route via the Nightmare's previous residence. As a result, an earth dragon attacks them, but they manage to defeat it. However, as soon as they come upon a horde of Nightmare's remnants, spider-like creatures thought to be the Nightmare's descendants, strangely though, the monsters seem to let Shun and company pass after they realize they were reincarnations. Finally, the gang makes it out of the maze by flying through a gap on the back of Faye's dragon form. Although Nameless has been shown to have lived in the past because of her immortality, she muses that she must proceed with caution because magic does exist that can kill even immortals. When one of Ariel's parallel brains utilizes her connection with her mother to attack her mind, she irrationally realizes that Nameless is alive. Nameless discovers herself close to Sophia's homeland, which elves are once more targeting. Shun's party passes through that same village in the present. They discover that the Word of God Church and Goddess religion are at ends with one another, and Miss Oka explains that Hugo has probably indoctrinated the leaders of the church, leading Shun to decide they must destroy him. When Sophia was being kidnapped by the elves in the past, Nameless killed everyone who showed signs of being suspicious. Potamus notices this and worries that Ariel and the church may have learned of his plans to gather the reincarnations. Dustin, the head of the church, notices as well but decides to ignore it because he's getting ready to wage war against the goddess religion. When Nameless gradually becomes known to the locals, they start to think of her as a divine beast sent by the goddess. Later, a mother brings back her sick child to Nameless and begs her to heal him. Grudgingly, she agrees. The following day, Nameless discovers that the town is now queuing up to receive her healing because word is spread. When Shun's company eventually makes it to the elf village, they're startled to see Potamus there. Miss Oka directs Shun, Faye, and Kadia to the other reincarnations housed at the elf village after they've rested for the night. Shun and the others become skeptical when the others confess that they were actually abducted by the elves while celebrating their happy reunion. In the past, Sophia's parents have received a request to turn over Nameless from the neighboring country, which they are unable to accomplish. Then Potamus shows up, but he ultimately decides against approaching Sophia while Nameless is present. Nameless teleports to her mother after determining that she is sufficiently weak to be killed, only to wind up stepping into a trap and almost dying. Her parallel minds, who had already stolen all of her mother's stats and transformed them to herself, then reappear, enabling her to swiftly kill her before fleeing. Ariel then discovers her mother's body and swears vengeance before encountering an earth dragon who asserts that it is normal for the old to make room for their children. Ariel then attacks the dragon out of hatred. Nameless is confronted by an ambassador from a nearby kingdom that claims ownership of her, but she just finds them bothersome and leaves. The same administrator she met in the maze confronts her after that. He goes by the name Galidestadias and asks her to cease attacking Ariel and engaging with people. She declines, stating that she must get involved to avert the end of the world. Unfortunately, as Gully leaves, the envoy's guards attack Nameless, forcing her to kill them out of self-defense. However, the neighboring nation declares war, citing the killing of the envoy as justification, and Nameless resolves to go up against their army personally after comprehending what she has done. Miss Oka questions her decision-making in the here and now. She possesses a special ability known as Student Roster that enables her to predict the reincarnation's birthplace, state of health, and manner of death. This ability led her to strike a deal with Potamus to essentially confine the reincarnations in the elf village for their own protection. Hugo's army is being concealed by Ariel's men, who are utilizing them as cover as they advance onto the elf village. Two more of their old classmates, Kunihiko and Asaka, join Shun's party as they get ready for the fight, and Miss Oka explains the elves' explanation for why they were reborn to them. The beings known as administrators, who are in charge of this world's RPG system, were summoned to help people develop strong skills since they feed off the energy of people's skills. She also says that while Sophia willingly serves them, Hugo is probably being coerced by them. The entrance to the elf village is attacked by some of the aforementioned classmates. Sajin, who evolved into a church assassin, while the gang wonders what happened to the two reincarnations who are still missing. The barrier enclosing the settlement is abruptly demolished, allowing Hugo's forces to invade when Sajin destroys the entrance and leaves, trapping everyone inside. Miss Oka, who is in charge of the elves' defense, turns to Hugo to personally put an end to him after learning via her skill that he will perish here. She's able to defeat a brainwashed Yuri, but Hugo is able to defeat her with the help of Sophia. However, when Shun and his group show up, they stop him from killing her completely. When Ariel suddenly appears, Nameless has joined the battle against the neighboring nation, costing the enemy heavy fatalities. It is revealed that after killing the dragon, Ariel's soul combined with the parallel minds of Nameless, who had previously jumped over to her, causing her to take on some of that person's characteristics. She teleports to Nameless's location with the help of Galliaristodias, who came back to check on her, because she still wants revenge. Nameless must rely on self-healing by leveling up with the EXP gained from collateral damage in order to survive, as Ariel uses multiple skills to prevent her from utilizing magic or teleporting. Eventually, a young Julius interrupts their conflict, leading Ariel to cease fighting out of concern for the hero's hidden effect, which ensures their victory against the Demon Lord. However, Ariel is able to divert him before vaporizing Nameless with Abyss Magic, which has the power to destroy even immortals. Even though his allies want to aid him right now, Shun insists on going up against Hugo alone. Protagonist gives the order to send Gloria's forces into combat while the elf village conflict goes on. Sophia refuses to aid Hugo, revealing her connection to the demons and the fact that they were merely using him as a smokescreen. Meanwhile, Shun easily beats Hugo. Hugo is incensed at being used as a tool, but she dismisses him with ease. Shun and his group attempt to combat her, but they're easily and quickly defeated. Faye tries to give up on behalf of everyone, but Shun won't give up since he thinks Julius won't either. Unfortunately, reinforcements headed by the final classmate, still missing, 8th Demon Army Commander Wrath, Shun's former friend, ambush them. Then Gloria's units, which are later discovered to be mechanical tank drones, are used by the elves to begin their counterattack, killing all the demons but Sophia and Wrath. The woman in white who killed Julius is with Ariel, as they approach the village when the latter decides to check on Sophia and Wrath. Sophia and Wrath try to stop Shun, but he's outmatched, and Anna takes a fatal blow in his place. Shun revives her using a Forbidden Mercy skill out of desperation. The level 10 increase in his taboo forces him to discover the reality of the world. Hugo attacks Sophia when he spots an opening, but Shun and his group identify her as their classmate, Wakaba, the nameless spider, and she knocks Hugo out cold. When Ariel attacked in the past, Wakaba managed to live by transferring her consciousness into an egg that she had deposited beforehand and hatched as a baby. She then transforms into an arachne using the XP she earned on the battlefield. As a result of Protagonist's attack on Sophia's home, which also resulted in the deaths of her parents and the family butler, Merizophis, Sophia was forced to convert him into a vampire. Thankfully, Wakaba shows up and engages Protagonist. However, he's forced into a corner until Ariel shows up and defeats him, showing that he was simply a mechanical replica. Following Ariel's request for a truce, Wakaba, Sophia, and Merizophis all consent to accompany her back to demon territory. Wakaba's group continues in the present and defeats Protagonist, and that's the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this, so I'll see you at the next one.